Hello everyone, my name is Nick, and this week's plant of the week is Hoya australis. This Hoya, like many other Hoya, is native to Australia, and that is actually exactly what this name in Latin is suggesting. Hoya australis, Australia. So that is very easy to understand, so that's something I really appreciate. This is a very large-leaved Hoya compared to many of the other ones I grow in my home, and I really enjoy that. I really like leaves that have such a presence. So I'm a really big fan of Hoya abovata, and this one reminds me very similarly of that, just with a little bit more plain, if you will, leaves. They just don't have as much striking characteristics, but I really do appreciate this plant. I don't want to downplay it by any means. It's really quite wonderful with the large round leaves. This variety of Hoya australis right here is a little bit more succulent, and the leaves are a little bit more brighter green than the more common variety of Hoya australis that I see on the market. But this one I think I've been growing this one a little bit longer, so I wanted to share this one with you guys today. I really enjoy this plant though for the bright green leaves. I will say I'm a little bit more fond of this cultivar, if I will admit. This one is really easy to grow given you give it enough light. However, you don't want to give your Hoyas too much light. I would say a south-facing window would be too much light in the northern hemisphere. A southern-facing window would likely burn these leaves, but pull it back just a foot or a few feet from a south-facing window, and this plant will grow very well for you. That's actually where I'm growing this plant right here, and I have many other of my Hoya growing in the same location as this one, and I just find that is like the magic space for my Hoya. I also have another Hoya australis growing in a western-facing window. That one's doing pretty well too, but I think this one being pulled back a little bit from the southern-facing window is doing very well as well. However, this one is also in a little bit more of a humid environment, and from this Hoya being slightly thinner leaved than some of the other ones I grow, well, I had mentioned that this Hoya australis is a little more succulent than the other one I grow in my home. It's still a little bit thinner than some of the other Hoyas that I grow in my home. So this is definitely one that I would say would appreciate the added humidity, but just like many other Hoyas, I don't think they necessarily need that extra humidity. So just something if you want to be an extra good plant parent would be to give this plant a little bit more humidity to let it thrive. As far as watering goes, I am not watering this plant that often at all. I actually still have this plant in the grower pot, in the grower's mix. You can see it's like so top heavy. I really should consider repotting it soon. But I'm not quite sure what they planted this Hoya in. It's in like a mix of like sphagnum moss and orchid bark and rice hulls. So it's a very particular mixture that they have in here. And I'm not sure if I can recreate that mixture right here. But I will have to kind of study this mixture a little bit more. So this is definitely growing in a very well-draining mix that is definitely in tune for epiphytes, or plants that grow naturally, like attached to trees, attached to things that aren't parasitic is what an epiphytic plant is. So this soil medium is definitely trying to recreate more of that epiphytic situation. This soil also drains very quickly, which is something that Hoyas really appreciate, so this plant can sit dry for a little bit of time, and then I go ahead and give it some really good watering. So a way that I would also recommend probably recreating the soil that is for more epiphytic plants would be to add more orchid bark to your mixture. Specifically, a finer orchid bark would be better than the thicker orchid bark because it will provide more of like a texture to your soil than just thick pieces of bark. But I would highly recommend trying that out. So that is probably what I will do when I do go about repotting this Hoya australis. But as far as like a rough day amount, I'm probably watering this plant like every 10 days, I would say. It has a very good sign if you go a little too far over that mark. The leaves will get a little bit wrinkly. They will look like they need water, and like any good plant, it will plump back up once you go ahead and water that. So it's best to err on underwatering than overwatering, because if you overwater this Hoya, I would be sure that some of these lower leaves particularly would start to turn yellow and fall off as it's trying to get rid of some of that extra water. But as long as you're not overwatering this Hoya, you give it a really well draining mix, and you're giving it bright enough light, not too bright of light, but bright enough light, I think you would have some really good luck growing this Hoya. As I mentioned, it really doesn't need that extra humidity, but being just in nature a little bit of a thinner Hoya, I'm sure it would really appreciate some extra humidity, but as I said, it just doesn't really require it like none other Hoyas really do. Some Hoyas do, but not all of them. But that being said, if you do grow this Hoya in your home, I'd be really interested to hear if you guys have any extra care tips. These do flower. I don't have any peduncles. I think I did one here, but it's kind of dried up, so it's not even worth showing. But Hoyas do bloom. They bloom a little bit more in the summertime, but they do need to be a little bit more well established and happy, or perhaps stressed, to bloom, either or. But I don't have any blooms to share with you guys today, unfortunately. But if you do grow this plant in your home, as I was saying, please let me know your care tips. I would be very interested to hear how you are growing this plant in your home. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's plant of the week, Hoya australis. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.